the activities or the economic activities, the government of India has announced a semiconductor. Semiconductor is also called as new oil. 12 projects were approved across fabrication indigenous or make in India. What are the challenges? Technological gap. Hi guys, welcome to Believers IS Academy. So today, let's imagine the phone you are using, okay, the phone you are using, or the laptop you are watching this video, okay, and even the car which you have been using, or the public transportation, or even your any of the electric part. Let's say all these things have one common thing. If I want to say all these particular things will have only one common thing. Can you guess what it is? It is your semiconductor or the chips which is there in this semiconductor. Now, let's imagine if there is sudden shortage of or sudden crisis of semiconductor. So what will happen? Actually, all the activities or the economic activities which is going on currently will automatically come into standstill. Okay. So in this regard, so Government of India has announced a semiconductor program, what we call as earlier it was Semicon 1, okay, Semicon 1. Now India has introduced this Semi 2.0. Now in this video we'll understand what is semiconductor, what are the uses of semiconductor, okay, and what is this particular program is all about. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, now we'll first understand what is this semiconductor. So before understanding semiconductor, even for any non-science students, okay, so what we can do, we'll just take an example and I'll try to explain you what is semiconductor. So what is semiconductor? Semiconductor, imagine there are three components, which is conductor, insulator and semiconductor. Now think conductor as an open gate. Open gate for what? The flow of electricity. Okay, so conductor will be your open gate for flow of electricity, where electricity will flow very, there is an open gate where it will flow very quickly. Okay, so now it is insulator. Now what are insulator? It is like we call it as closed gate. We call them as closed gate. So what they'll do? They'll not allow electricity to pass through them. Okay, so this is conductor where it allows electricity to pass, and insulator is where your closed gate. Okay, we call them as closed gate because why? They'll stop the movement of electric current. Now, ultimately, what is this semiconductor? Semiconductor is basically what? It's a kind of traffic signal. Means it will allow, electricity to pass and it will close also. This is basically what? It will control the flow of electricity. Okay, control the flow of electricity. So now my question is, since electricity is already connected in your phone also, electricity is there in your phone or in your car, in your TV, in your AC, everyone there. So the flow of electricity should be controlled. This semiconductor will do that particular job. Okay. Now this semiconductor have tiny pieces. These pieces is what we call as chips. Chips. This is what we call as chips. So now what India is doing? India is actually planning to manufacture these semiconductors, because currently now almost 90% of our semiconductor are being imported. Because if we have semiconductor itself, we can produce these kinds of goods. You know, semiconductor is also called as new oil. New oil. Why it is called as new oil? Because earlier in 20th century, what used to happen? Oil was needed for the development of the country. Now in 21st century, what we need? It's a digital, economy kind of. Okay. So here semiconductor plays a major role in this digital economy. So in this regard, India has planned this particular project, what we call as Semi 02. Okay. Now it is 2.0, Semi 2.0. India is pushed towards technological sovereignty. As I told you, India wants to make its own semiconductor. In order to push this, India has came up with this particular program called as Semicon 2.0. So before understanding Semicon 2.0, we'll understand what was Semi 1.0. Okay, now as I told you, we have already been using this. This is the brain of modern devices. As I told you, smartphone, EV, AI system. So all are dependent on chips. Chips, I already told you what is chips. Now everything, this is the foundational block, foundational building block for all these kinds of technology. And even if you think defense systems, okay, defense, space, telecommunication, all needs electricity, right? So in order to produce this electricity, controlled flow of electricity, we need semiconductor. So this is the main important of this semiconductor. Okay, now if you see global vulnerability in 2020, there was a crisis for this particular thing. From there onward, India had started this particular program. India has started its Semicon 1.0 in 2021. Okay, to be sovereign in this particular area. Okay, now after this, as I told you, India has from moving towards import dependence to self-reliance. As I told you, already 90% of our semiconductor are basically what we are imported, where it is we are spending billions of dollars towards this import. Okay, now I told you 2021 it was the first semiconductor mission 1.0, where we had put it 76,000 crores. So what was the main idea behind this? This semiconductor 1 is basically what? It's a kind of assembly. Okay, so here what used to happen, we used to import everything and we used to assemble in India. Okay, so this basically what? It led to the foundation. We can consider this to be a foundation. We were importing, though we were importing, here the assembly was happening within India itself. Whatever the machine assembly what was happening, it was happening in India itself, and this built a foundation for production of semiconductors. Okay, this laid the foundation for semiconductor. So now in 2.0, what actually we are doing? We are moving towards manufacturing of these chips. This is the main idea behind Semi 2.0. Okay, so I hope you have understood this. Okay, now after this, what we'll do is we'll understand what are the achievements of Semicon 1 is. This was the outlay which we had India dedicated semiconductor incentive schemes was there. Okay, and 12 projects were approved across fabrication, packing and display of manufacturing, and even anchor players. These are some of the Indian companies which have joined which have entered into a global supply chain. So here basically what it just laid the foundation for this particular program. Okay, now after this Semiconductor 2.0. Now what is this Semiconductor 2.0? As I told you, we are moving from assembly, where we are moving from assembly to manufacturing of these chips. Okay, we are manufacturing these chips. So in this regard, government has allocated 1.27 lakh crore. Okay, and expected total investment including private capital is 4 lakh crores will be in total, with government and private will be invested in this particular program, and 2 lakh crore domestic production target. Okay, 2 lakh crore domestic production and 1 lakh crore export revenue from this particular project. Okay, this is what the targets are. Okay, we can say these are the targets or the aims or expectations from this particular project. Okay, so now if you see this, there are 6 pillars of this semiconductor. There are 6 pillars of this Semicon 2.0. Okay, now first understand what is here. The first part is design. Design basically what? Design of chips. Chips will be designed there. Like if I want to give you example, let's say before construction of your home, you'll actually what you will do, planning and all, right? Planning, designing, everything. So that architect, you will appoint one architect to design your house. That architect, what it will basically, he will design your home. I mean, he'll put the complete plan of your home. Okay, where the rooms has to be, everything. So that design will be the first pillar of this. And second, after the construction of your home, what you will do? You will actually build there. So we need machineries and equipments for what? Semiconductor manufacturing equipments will be deployed. This is the second pillar of it. And materials. What are the materials are needed? All the materials will be given. I mean, incentives will be given for them. And ultimately, the constructions of basically what? Inside this plant. Okay, what are the raw materials, whatever we have, ultimate constructions will be happening for this. Okay, here we started with design. Okay, and there was machinery which will implement this particular. It will do some production, and even the materials have been taken, and here ultimately the production of this particular chips will be happening. Okay, semiconductor chips. Now here this is what packing and testing means. After, let's say, before taking your phone, you will actually you will test what all the features are there, are the features are working nice or not. So this is basically what testing, packing and testing, and this is R&D. R&D basically here the future research of this particular things will be done in R&D. Okay, and this is it. And here the holistic value of chain approach. Here semiconductor focus on fabrication. Now it addressed the entire semiconductor value chain. It was only addressing of fabrication, where it is also basically what it is, assemblies kind of basically. Here from raw materials, equipment to chip design, fabrication, packaging and indigenous research. Everything will be done in your Semicon 2.0. Okay, 2.0. Now after this, lastly, new financial model. Now earlier what government used to do, government used to give some grants or some money, and it used to support. Now what government is doing is, it is asking for equity co-investment. Okay, here government takes equity stakes, which means shares from that particular companies. Okay, and ventures, semiconductor ventures, sharing the risk and aligning incentives. Okay, this is there. And royalty fees, innovation royalty based on funding for the company. Royalty fees will be taken by the government. So basically all these things, basically why the government is doing all this particular thing, is because since they are also doing in the defense and let's say science and technologies. Since they are involved in this strategic sectors, so government is also trying to gain some of the ownership of this particular project. Okay, now startup support, whatever the startups are coming in this semiconductor industries will be supported, and indigenous IP creation, it will be completely indigenous. IP creation will be completely of India. Okay, and since it is dealing with these sectors, it is completely indigenous. Okay, and lastly, if you see, there is another thing which have been talked is mobile phone manufacturing scheme. Now what is this mobile phone manufacturing scheme? Here a targeted incentive schemes to deepen the domestic mobile manufacture, which means it will support more manufacturing of phones within India itself. Okay, since we are getting phones from China, Taiwan and Japan, these kinds of countries. So here the government is basically what it is supporting, and it is also providing production linked incentive. Now what is this production linked incentive? Basically, if your production, let's say this year you have produced 100 phones. Now if you are able to sell 130 phones, we will give incentive of this for 30 rupees. Okay, this 30 phones incentives will be of this revenue, whatever the profit you are getting or the revenue you are getting, and in this you will be getting 2.5 and till 5% intensive incentives from the government itself. Okay, now domestic source pushing, additional incentive for using Indian made components or displayed. Here basically we are giving more push for indigenous or make in India projects. Okay, and Indian brand and R&D is also being supported, under special focus will be given for them. Okay, and lastly, what are the opportunities and challenges in this particular thing? Opportunities as one is self-reliance, we already know, and even the export growth will also happens because many countries are dependent on digital technologies now, and it will create employment. And since we are doing indigenous chips, it is doing for what? Basically indigenous. Okay, all the defense sectors, national security will be much more enhanced. And what are the challenges? Technological gap, catching up with countries which have already developed these kinds of industries like Taiwan and South Korea. It will be very much difficult kind of thing and capital intensive. Okay, it requires more capital, and that capital has to be sustained, means continuous investments needs to be needed. Talent shortage or acute shortage of VLSI engineers and processing specialists, and global competition with other countries. So these are some of the positives and negatives, but if you look at the positive side of this, definitely India has very much scope in this particular sector, and given the talent India has, definitely in future, definitely is going to help in India. Okay, and I hope this topic was you are able to understand what is this semiconductor and Semiconductor 2.0. Okay, I hope you like this video. Thank you so much.